In tonight's episode of the Farm2Table Direct Show, we're talking about lab-grown chicken meat. What is it? Why are they doing it? And why we think this just might be a bad idea. Stick around. This is going to be a good episode. Let's get into it.
We've handed over our food security to someone else, and they're here to help you take it back. It's the Farm2Table Direct Show with Ryan and Keith.
So what we're getting into right now is what is lab-grown chicken meat?
I don't know, but it sounds like a bad combination to me. I don't think I want my chicken grown in a lab, but we'll dig further into that and see what it is. So what is lab-grown chicken meat, bro?
It is cells taken from a chicken and grown in vats.
Grown in vats?
Doesn't that sound delicious?
That just sounds marvelous.
Right. Well, I mean, we do a lot of things like that, but, let's open up the topic about some of the challenges that, that they've had and what it, of making it so that you and I would think that it's quite tasty. One of the things that they had to do in order to get any of the lab-grown meat to taste right is they discovered that they had to have a product called heme.
Heme.
Right. And it's from the root word of hemoglobin, right? So in other words, they had to have the blood of the animal in order to make it taste right. But for those of you that says, okay, they added blood, so what? We do that anyway. Well, they found their way around that too. They have now done it into soybeans, and they figured out that they could get the heme out of a soybean by genetically modifying that.
Uh-oh.
So here we are.
GMO, here we go.
With GMO, right?
Man.
And so on top of that, they have to do additives, and altogether it becomes something that they call a slurry.
A slurry. And that don't sound like Slurpee from 7-Eleven to me.
No, it sounds more like Chum from the Chum Bucket on SpongeBob.
Yep, Mr.
SquarePants.
Yep, Mr. Plankton's Chum Bucket. There we go. Right? Everybody's favorite kind of food.
Yeah, what I was saying before the show real quick was that The Simpsons, this is one of those predictions that they got right. They called their meat sauce that they were creating in a laboratory slurry.
Oh, dear God.
I call our product Little Lisa's patented animal slurry.
I'm like, did they get that from The Simpsons, or was The Simpsons just using their typical time machine and going ahead and seeing?
Once again, The Simpsons have struck.
Right.
Right. That's interesting.
Oh, man, that's crazy. I was reading, and I didn't write, they have to, let's see where I'm at, right here. I'm gonna find it. I wrote it down. I know it is. Oh, yeah. They have to, amino acids, sugars, salts, and vitamins all have to be added into this stuff.
So there again, we've got additives.
Right.
And whenever I was looking at some of the processes that they were doing, inside of let's just say a chicken or a cow, they have livers and they have lungs, right? Well, then they have blood that circulates through the body, which is the heme. Whenever I was listening to all of this, it seemed to me that they were trying to replicate the processes of meat animals. They call these what were they calling it? They were calling them reactors.
Oh yeah, reactors. Yep.
Yeah, the whole thing is a reactor, and they're just trying to replicate that.
Yeah, bioreactors.
Like a bioreactor, right?
It's like a brewery on steroids, like scientific steroid.
Right. That's exactly what I read.
Brewed chicken.
That's one of the things I read was it was almost that same process. And, it was the initial process developed is the same they use for biopharmaceutical and tissue engineering purposes. Now, that came off of Beef Central in an article that they had out, and I'll quote from it a couple more times. But the same process that they're using basically to grow an ear, it's the same process they're using to grow a chicken.
Right. Yeah. Now, it's real important to point out that it's not really growing a hunk of meat like we would think. It's more of the term slurry, so if anyone out there has ever watched how they make hot dogs or bologna, how they create that mush, that's what they're making. That's what this so-called meat really
So they
is.
can shape it then into whatever
Yeah,
shape
they can't
want.
actually create the fibers and all that in muscle
I
like
thought
they
that
do.
they was pretty much making the the muscle.
No, it's no, they said that it's impossible to actually generate the actual muscle. So they were talking about the taste, trying to get it to taste as close to it as possible. So,
Right.
so because they said they can't do the actual specific fibers that it takes to create a muscle that the human, or I should say not human. I hope we're not eating humans here. The animal's body can create theirself. It's that slurry is what they have to. That's the best they can do.
Well, I know they the way they've been promoting this or putting this, Upside Foods CEO Eric Schultz, he called it real meat without the need to raise and slaughter animals.
Right.
And it was vitro muscle tissue growth, which is a 100-year-old technique, is what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you go back and you read other places and stuff, it is, they form it into whatever they want. It's not like it grows a piece of chicken out here.
I'm not saying that what's in it is not the same as muscle tissue. I'm saying the way it's formed changes it completely, because there is other things in natural meat that they can't produce in this slosh.
Just goes to show you, it's not as good as what Mama makes right there on the table. I'm telling you, it's not as good as God's chicken.
Right. So let's get a little bit into the reason why they say that they're trying to create this, other than it's a multi-billion-dollar business idea. I think
It's an idea.
Done that yet, and I know that in their marketing that they want to roll it out into like high-end restaurants at first, and then the process itself is not cheap.
No, very expensive.
Right.
No,
At this time.
Which we can get into more details on that after we talk about the reasons why.
Right.
They really want to do this.
Right.
Well, the one that I've been reading the most or seeing the most is about the fact of climate and the reduction of greenhouse gases that the cows, or the chickens in this case, produce in the air. And they're saying that this is a reduction in that it's actually better for the environment.
That's the biggest reason right there, is why they claim to be doing this, is to save the environment.
Right.
Right. And so their logic is that 1/3 of all livestock meat that is produced, I should say all livestock meat makes up 1/3 of the global emissions that is causing climate change, a full 1/3 of it.
Right.
Now, that's what they say.
That's what they say.
First of all, folks, you have to buy the idea that, global warming or climate change is as they say it is, and that they don't have any other underlying motives as to why they're doing this. Personally, we believe that, our forests and our mangroves and everything, it absorbs more than enough to cover everything that the humans are doing. So the science is not settled as they say. You make up your mind, but toward the end of this, we're going to get into another reason that you might need to rethink about why they shouldn't be doing this in a lab.
Right. And of course, another big thing that they've come out with, there's the animal rights groups that, of course, the intentional raising and slaughtering of animals, they claim that's not the natural way, that's not the natural order. And so it's this idea of protecting animals. But
right. And, whenever I look at it, I'm not inhuman. When I see the slaughter of an animal, it makes me a little queasy, you know. When I was a kid, it just seemed like a natural thing because it was just something that was happening all the time. But I got a little queasy, about that sort of thing. However, I've seen videos of people. It's not PETA. It's actually a different group, but they are quite militant, shall I say?
Right.
The one that I was watching, they were taking us onto, I'm sure they were trespassing onto a property that was showing turkeys, right?
Right.
And so they want to take footage of these conditions that the turkeys are living in.
Right.
Well, they've got night vision goggles All right.
Yeah,
They've
they're
got
well funded.
detectors. They're they're well equipped. And whenever they were bringing all the pictures back and showing you all the things on their computer and everything, they quite boastfully went to their locker to show all of the equipment that they have to surveil all of this stuff. And let me say this: if a pro-life group went out there and they found that they had all of this kind of equipment to spy on stuff like that, what do you think they would do about that?
Right. They'd be locked up.
They'd probably be locked up as
They'd be getting
terrorists.
sued and everything else.
Right.
Going to jail, But, that goes, I mean, again, what we've said in the past, there are those who are true believers. They're well-intentioned. They actually, believe what they believe. It's a core belief for them. They feel this way. But like anything, you've got organizations and you've got people that take advantage of that and put them in positions, to raise all this awareness, and be quote, quote, activist, if you will.
Yeah.
And it crosses that line.
Yeah, they don't know who they serve.
Right. They're not aware of what's really funding and who's coming behind all that and what it's actually going to accomplish, and it's something I read here recently. I wish I could remember where I read it, but it was basically about the fact that, a generation of people trying to tear down the established order of things without any real plan to replace.
Right.
Without any real plan for what's better. And in that void is where all of this bad can happen.
Right. They don't, the foot soldiers don't know what's replacing.
Right. Which
but the people pulling the strings absolutely do.
Yeah.
The Soviet Union's had this plan since, I think, the 1910s to infiltrate, or how do you say?
Infiltrate.
There you go. America, and slowly turn it over to socialist and eventually communism.
As I'm saying, they're tracking in a pretty solid direction. And that goes back to the kind of really the other thing we talked about of why they would do this, and that's control.
Right. A lot of people would say, no, that's not it. What do you say about that? What makes you think that it would be a control mechanism?
Henry Kissinger. Control the food, control the people.
Right. Well, some people might call you a conspiracy theorist.
I've got my tinfoil hat out in the truck. I mean, we can, whatever. It's only a conspiracy until it's proven true.
I think you've got one under your hat.
Right. I mean, just look what he said right before he said that. He said, control the oil, control the nation. And then he went from that to the food. So, and we see that, like anybody can see the oil situation playing out. Like that's already done and over with.
Right. Well, some may argue that, the population is growing and we've got to be able to feed everyone on the planet, and that, climate change, if we don't do something about it, all of us are going to die. I mean, isn't really that the train of thought that they have?
That's the train of thought that I think, like we just talked about, the believers, the ones who are actually, in their heart, they have accepted this, or they believe that, the population is going to outgrow its resources. And the population it's just going to outgrow everything. There's not going to be any farmland. There's not going to be any place to grow meat or anything because they've taken it all up in population in its city. And I mean, I think time has proven that that's a false theory. It just doesn't work. I mean, they've been spouting that since the 1800s, and here we are in 2023, and they're still, we're still here, and it's still going.
Right.
Just drive down the road in our part of the world, and you look over, there's plenty of land out there that's not even being utilized.
Yeah, that's true.
So it's, I get it. People in cities might not understand that.
Well, they live in their bubble, and that's what they think the rest of the world is.
So that's, I mean, and then we kind of briefly talked about the money aspect of it, and which we talked about on a previous show about
follow the money. It's always there.
People get in a business real fast, early on, and then they get legislation later on down the road to pass it to force people to buy their product.
Well, and keep in mind, and I will add this in talking about the money. Let's keep in mind, this is not some small scale operation that's going on. This is a very expensive operation. Yeah. It's got a lot of funding. It's got a lot of backing, including some of your people from the Big Four who have venture funded into this field and to plant-based and lab-based foods as, gaming ahead for the future of knowing what they see coming. So they're already putting money, into this stuff. I mean, as far back as 2011, 2018, all the way through there before anything. This is an ongoing thing, and when you got a multi-billion-dollar corporation that they're putting money into research and development on this stuff, or venture funding these smaller groups to see what they can do so that they can try to get the technology down to where they can get it into the grocery store.
Right. See, yeah, exactly. So to touch on that some about the money aspect, people invest all that money. Well, why would they invest in a product that no one would want to eat when they got the natural thing? And the director at UC Berkeley of alternative meats said, I don't want to misquote him. So that he said, why would anyone want to eat this unless they were forced to? And he's a maker of this product. So in his eyes, I could see him thinking that we're going to be forced to eat this.
Right. Well, I'm glad that you brought up that point because, in the beginning of the show, I said that there was a really good reason to why I think this is a bad idea. And I want to kind of go down that. First of all, this is not a perfected process yet.
No.
On a lower scale, they say that they can sanitize everything and keep up with it on a lower scale. But when they scale it up to a point that it could really feed the population, then they said that sanitation becomes a problem. Now, there may be some other problems that go along with that I didn't hear about, but they said that it would just be hard to sanitize everything that would have to be sanitized in between each one of the batches in order to make enough for, the entire planet.
Yeah. They said one little fingerprint can ruin a whole batch of this stuff, right? That's how sensitive it is. And so at one of these labs that make this, there's a policy. It's the $1 million policy.
Right.
And the scientists who work in there and create these batches, well, this batch, it is worth about $1 million. It's a smaller batch. That's how expensive this stuff is. And if they're allowed to mess up one batch, they joined the $1 million club is what they call it.
They messed up that batch.
So the company allows them to join that $1 million club, but you're fired once you join the $2 million club.
I can see it. Well, and that's, they talk about, this is potentially a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they're putting a lot of money into it, but we were talking about the challenges with sanitation. It comes into the technology. The technology is not available on a commercially viable scale.
Exactly. It mirrors the whole green movement with solar power, wind power, battery power. Look, those things they're good. In the future, let's really talk about this. When the technology gets there, then sure, we possibly go off fossil fuels. But until then, the government needs to stop subsidizing all this stuff, taking our tax dollars and pushing it and putting it into products that does not work as well as something that we do have. All it is a money triangle. They just keep exchanging hands and power to keep their little system and their little scams going. And that's all this crap is.
So, all of those things are valid points, but I want to kind of get down into the nut of what, that really touches me deep inside about what they're doing. Okay. And sometimes this requires the 30,000 foot view. And a lot of historical background and context of what I'm about to say. Okay. So governments around the world have illustrated their intent to eliminate herds of animal meats for the sake of climate change and animal rights. It may make it a criminal offense to raise your own meat. But let's say that they don't even make it or regulate it out to where you can't even have a chicken in your backyard.
They can price it out.
But you could get priced out of it.
Yeah.
Right. And so what have they done that in recent history? For example, on the cattle, what have they done to cattle recently to try to eliminate cattle off the planet?
Well, I mean, we flat out wiped out herds. And
Right.
we've seen that. And I mean, but also, 2020 happened to markets. They suppressed everything. Farmers couldn't afford to keep their herds. And so they sold them off early in mass.
Well, you can't blame that. Though,
No, you don't blame the farm. Well,
but that's a factor, right?
but it's a factor. But what's happened is now, fast forward here where we're at now, and there's a shortage because these farmers, these ranchers depleted their herds down. And so
Right.
there's just not as much meat coming into the system as there used to be, which is creating a supply demand issue. And there's predictions of up to $21 a pound on certain types
Right.
of beef this year.
right.
I
That's
mean, so yeah, to me, I think they're far away from pricing real meat out of the market. I think they do it through regulation, and I'll make my point here real quick. The reason I think they'll do it through regulation and climate change and animal rights issues versus cost efficiency, because right now it costs about $50 to produce a chicken nugget of this fake stuff.
Okay.
So they said you can buy about 1,500. They said it costs about the same, about $1,500, or sorry, what it costs to produce that one chicken nugget, you can get 1,500 chicken nuggets God's way.
Right.
So that's that, to be able to make this
We're a long ways
fake
up.
meat cheaper than real meat is. I mean, we're
Right.
like
Well,
we're 5 Nobel prizes away from
Right.
that.
And I'll back that up, Josh. I mean, to a point, when I say that, we were talking about, regulating out. I mean, just some of the stuff that's happening, with the new FDA GCI guidance on, I think it's number 263 or something like that, where these ranchers and farmers have to now have a prescription
Right.
from a veterinarian to go get routine antibiotics that they've used for years. Now, I did some follow-up on that, and basically they go to that vet, they have an established relationship. We were talking about that,
Right.
where, okay, if this is a recurring thing, they only have to go there that once and they can get the prescription. But it's still adding a burden. It's still adding an expense.
just another.
Right.
Yeah,
And, like the guy I talked to, he said, I come home from work because he works a job, comes home from work, and I got a cow that's sick. The vet's closed.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just go to Atwood's or Farmers Co-op or whatever now and get this. He said, so it may be the next morning. Well, by then it could be too late. I could lose that animal.
Right.
And he said, so for all those ones that claim that they're there for animal rights, I can't treat my animals the way I used to be able to treat them and take care of them, because now I have to go through these hoops and hurdles and money. And he's actually thinking about just getting out of it.
Right. Yeah. So the regulatory aspect of it does go into money eventually, right? Because then you can no longer afford to, continue doing what you're doing. Now, I can see how that, y'all's argument on the price of that, but
the cost to raise a chicken, you can go buy a chicken for $3.
right.
Right. Who's going to be taking their chicken to the vet and
Right.
paying the bill for a vet whenever they could just replace the chicken?
Right. And but we've seen stuff begin to happen. Even some of the stuff that was going on with the chicken feed here recently, where these people were putting their feet out there, and then all of a sudden these chickens weren't laying eggs.
Right.
So there's things going on. You can question mark, check it up to coincidence, which I don't believe in, but
Right.
there's all kinds of ways that this can become a problem. But if we was doing chicken, we can't have this vat, we can't have this reactor, we can't grow this in our backyard.
Right. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they regulate us out or they price us out, that is still something that they want to do. And think about this: it's not just pricing us out because the availability the availability of this meat product might be low supply and demand, right? Not just that, but your what do they call it? The footprint.
Right.
Carbon footprint, right? So ESG scores come in, right? Mm-hmm. And they say, I'm sorry, you've got a cow in the backyard, and so you have to be carbon neutral. So how do you make your cow carbon neutral? Well, you have to pay this additional carbon tax.
Right.
You have to do something.
Yeah, it prices them out through regulation.
We're going to have a catalytic converter built for the back of the cow to collect the gases that the cow emits.
People have thought of this like somehow collecting cow flatulence.
Right.
And it's like,
Yeah. Right. A catalytic a cow catalytic converter.
I mean, well, my thing is, chickens and cows and stuff have been around for thousands of years.
Right.
We've been eating them forever.
Yeah, we talked about the T-Rex flatulence.
Right. T-Rex.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs leaving big old,
Yeah.
that have now calcified and they can still find them. I mean, it's crazy. So, yeah, okay.
Okay, and if these things did happen, to your point that you were making, can everybody afford a reactor in their backyard to make the slurry that you really don't want to eat anyway?
Right.
Now, if you don't think that and I'm going to use the word dystopian future,
The big word.
that they would think things like that. I'm a real believer that, like you said about the Simpsons earlier, that they see where they're going with that. Have you guys seen Upload?
Yeah, it's got a little piece of it.
You got a little piece of it. I'm liking season two of it. I don't think you've watched it at all.
I will.
But one of the things that that they dream about is electric cars. They're in there. Printable meat.
It's in there.
It's in there. Let's see. Transhumanism. It's in there. All of these things, to where you can upload and there's no, they don't, I guess, believe that there's a God, and so they would just upload.
It's considered an old-fashioned belief, and they upload their conscience to their version of a heaven. Right. All computer it's all virtual reality simulation type stuff, and it's crazy where this goes but at the same time it shows us something.
Oh yeah, that's my jam. Yeah, that's why I started prepping so long ago.
Right. So
seeing all this.
So as I was watching this and we were studying about this lab grown meat or
lab grown chicken.
Lab grown chicken. This is something that I stumbled across. Can you play cut one, please?
This is so good. Ow! What?
Honey, that's a bone. The animal that chicken comes from has them.
I knew that. Just never bit one.
Why don't you try swallowing them whole? There's candy on the inside. Ruby, not everyone can afford unprinted food.
So there you go.
Not everyone can afford printed.
Right. Not everyone can afford unprinted meat. Right. Oh, and the ways, they kind of snobbishly said, yeah, the chickens, they have bones,
Right. Well, I mean, it's like, but we go to it. I mean, our quote elite, that are traveling the world in their G5 telling us not to be driving,
right.
And eating their $50 burritos that you referenced earlier.
Right.
I mean, that's it. This stuff isn't going to hit them. It's not going to affect them. They can, it's us that they want. It's down here.
It's all about the control.
Absolutely.
They know that we can't put a bioreactor in our backyard.
Right.
So it takes the control of us being able to be, self-sufficient.
When it goes back to what, Doug says on Off Grid with Doug and Stacey, folks, you got to pay attention. They're coming for us. It's coming. They're out there. Right. They want this, and you better start getting stuff ready now, or you're going to be at their control. And they're trying to centralize our food into their controls where you got to go to them. Well, guess what? If you got to go to them, you got to do what they say to do to get it.
Right. And folks, that's, has anybody got anything else that they want to add to this conversation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're wrapping up.
Their whole, I'll be quick. Their whole reason is for climate change, right?
Right.
Well, the secret is them producing this in laboratories is not more green than your chicken in your backyard.
Right.
The infrastructure that it'll take to produce this is crazy high. They said it'll cost, just in the steel and the manufacturing of this, which everybody knows they use fossil fuels to make steel and mine and all this stuff. Correct?
The same fossil fuels they use to charge your Tesla?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So they said $1 trillion in infrastructure to produce 1/20th of 1% of the meat that we use.
Wow.
So $1 trillion. So that would be $20 trillion in infrastructure to produce 1%.
Wow.
Doesn't sound like good math.
Wait, boss. Wait, boss.
What's the next number above a trillion? Is it a gazillion or something? So it's
Trillion or something.
$2 quadrillion to be able just to initially start it.
What we already have.
Right. It's
Right.
like, this is insane.
Doesn't make sense to me.
So, boss. So if it's not feasible to do this and to save money and save the climate, so what would be one of the reasons that they would want to?
Money.
See, I'm confused.
Because
What?
they get the money from the taxpayers. Yeah.
Public-private partnership.
Public-private partnership. Winners and
to
losers.
buy their product
Being forced
is
to buy
the other
their
way.
product, yep.
If they don't get it through tax
I'm
incentives,
hearing vaccine mandates and mask mandates, and we have to buy their vaccine. That's what I'm. Yeah,
same
same
bioreactor that they
used to make this.
Right.
There we go.
You know, we're lightheartedly talking about this a little bit, but you know, seriously, in my heart of hearts, seeing the things that that we've seen come in the past, and I think I see what's coming down the road.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's the paint. The writing is there. They're no longer really hiding what they're up to.
Right, and everything that we see seems to be upside down, and there's a reason for that. And I heard this on another show, and maybe the people listening know which show that I'm referring to. But they recently took a vacation to Europe, and they seen an economic a building that was for economics or something like that. And they said that it was a George Soros.
What?
That it was I guess a George Soros funded building and everything. And in the front of it, there was an upside down globe. To where the South Pole was on the north and the North Pole was on the south. Does anybody want to take a stab at what they might be insinuating there?
Turning the world upside down.
Right.
Yes.
Everything's exactly upside down. So that's kind of the world that they're taking us to, folks. And I don't want to get off into that too much.
Well, so it goes into rules for thee, not for me.
That's
because again, they're not going to be affected by this.
Yes.
So yeah. Anything else?
You got any other points you want to make on this? Because
not that I could say in under an hour.
Okay. Well, right there we go. All right. Well, folks, listen. We covered a lot here. We kind of got into about the lab grown chicken meat, kind of the
how it works,
what it is, why they're doing it, and what we think is why is this a bad idea. You've gotten some information. Go out, do some more homework on your own, do some research, kind of formulate your opinion. But we've given you some stuff to think about. For me, like I said, I prefer God's method. It's worked for thousands of years, and I think it'll keep working as long as we don't mess with it. So if you like the type of content we cover here on the Farm to Table Direct Show, subscribe, like, share, all the good things we do. Smash it. Just thumbs up. Give it to us. Right. Anyway, we try to bring you the most relevant information concerning our food supply and preparing for the unexpected. And as we always say here on the Farm to Table Direct Show, prepare for the unexpected and keep it local. Right.
God didn't mess up when he made that.
No humans were harmed in the production of this podcast.